And we live.
All right. Good morning, family. I know this is we ready? We
Yeah, we
rocking?
ready. We
Okay.
rocking and rolling.
All right. Good morning, family. I know this is we here a little earlier than we normally are. We know we said 1:30. This is going to be kind of short and sweet. I had another obligation this morning I have to go to, and I'm thankful that Uncle Mick decided he was going to obligate us to do Black Watch Day. This is Black Watch with Brother Elliott McCants and Brother Mickey Jordan, and we talk about all things that concern us. And for all those of you all that may be sitting in the congregation waiting for the doors to be locked, we you know have a good day and watch your pockets, guard your pockets, and watch your chin. We good?
Yeah, we good.
Okay. Um,
We good. I was just checking,
so,
making sure the sound was good.
okay.
Let me get the
Uh,
share.
let's. I want to like kind of sort of hit on because we're getting ready to come up and we in what's called the Lenten season and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to go back and kind of sort of talk about a book from one of my teachers. And you mentioned it the last one of the times that we was in here. And it's called Intellectual Warfare,
Uh huh.
and it's by Dr. Jacob H. Crothers, and he was a founding member of ACAC, which is the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations. A lot of times, because Egypt, ancient Egypt, or Kemet as it was called, has been the most one of the most prominent civilizations to spring up on the planet. Most of the thievery, so to speak, of ideology, writing, science, math, and everything that we have in the world comes from there. And ancient writers always talked about how ancient Kemet is the light of the world because it gave so much. It gave like typically really everything, right? For those people that are math people, um, one of the theorems that we hear about all the time is the Pythagorean theorem, but Pythagoras did not create and invent that theorem, which is about triangles. It was another man, another priest called Amos. He was called Amos the scribe, who lived 2,500 years before Pythagoras. Pythagoras, of course, is Greek, but he's given the idea of being a mathematician. But if we recall, Alexander comes in who married Cleopatra or whatever that was. At least that's what the story they tell us. And this is not Elizabeth Taylor. Um, Comes in and destroys the library in what they call Alexandria, but it's not called Alexandria. The name escapes me. But this is study, right? So intellectual warfare is about not only studying our ancient material, ancient ways of life that we um, lived, but also how if we're not doing any study, if we're not building, as we said before, the honor around us and our family, that anything that we get told, we believe it and we buy it, and it becomes part of our life, right? So, like if it can be proved that certain things are what they really are, but someone tells you that there's not, right? So to know that Amos Scribe created this triangle, this measurement of the triangles, and that same measurement of the triangles was used to build the pyramids, the Myrrh. They're called pyramids is the Greek word, but Myrrh, M-I-R, the Myrrh, because they're triangular, right? Pyramidal shape, or that's the shape that they give it, based upon Greek mathematics, but called the Myrrh, and how the main Myrrh, the big Myrrh on the plateau, is aligned with true north, and African people didn't go to the North Pole until Matthew Henson, which they give it to this other guy. They say Admiral Byrd, and they say he did it, but it wasn't. It was Admiral Hinton, Matthew Henson, and Matthew Henson is the one that found True North. Admiral Byrd gets credit for it, but Matthew Henson is the African that went there. But it's also aligned with the Sirius A, B, and C stars, which they call Orion, right? And Orion's belt. But this particular Myrrh is aligned with the star in the middle, and it forms a perfect right triangle. And that was calculated by Amos the scribe. So the other two stars, the other two Myrrh, are aligned with the other two stars, A and C, on a plateau, and they too point to true north. But if we're not studying anything, situations where people tell you that that you're not worthy, that you're less than, and if we're constantly putting in ideas and images into the young people's head, our heads, through music, through any media that's propaganda, which is what we've always been talking about, then what you end up having is a group of people who are lost and can be led anywhere.
Right. Right.
Okay? So then it becomes okay for one of your pastoral leaders, and we're going to go back to what we talked about on Friday, to say, you're not leaving until you give me $40,000.
Well, technically, he said he was doing a good thing for it. He was at a seminar, wasn't it?
Okay. I'm just saying, but how is it the way that you phrase it also is going to make people go like, okay, wait a minute, you're just not going to talk to me in your kind of way. Now, I'm not sure whether he got the money, but the mere fact that even came out now, and we could just be unfortunately attacking him for what he said, but why would you say it? Like, if you're going to be talking about donating to a good cause, then explain the good cause to the people, right?
Right.
And say, look, okay, well, we're doing, and even if you lie, like, and we talked about that before.
Right.
We talked about that on Friday on the bump. Even if I'm lying, it may be for some other stuff. But I'm like, look, we're going to fix Sister Althea's roof. We're going to make sure that the taxes on Brother Robert's house is straight. We're
Right.
going to do it. So we need y'all.
Right.
But for you to say that you better lock the doors and you're not going to walk out.
Right.
See, that's real comfortable with black folk. But see, that's because you being black people and not being an African, right? An African person would have been like, I'm walking up out of here, and if you think you're stopping me, you're going to have a problem. But if you were really being about as you say, the God's work or the Lord's work or however you want to phrase it, you're doing the work, even if it's in a seminar. How? I don't think I've been in seminars as an educator in all my life, and somebody said, you're already paying at the door, but you're going to pay some more, and you ain't going to leave unless you pay up.
But you're right. But I don't think I want not to say. I want to say it was conference. He was at somebody's spot, but the more details you get into it, like I said, I just been watching other shows because they was like he was telling the people that was at the top. It was a different, I guess he wanted them, whoever was at the top. I don't know how true it is allegedly.
Right.
But he was expecting the ones was at the top to pay more. Like I said, I was just been getting like different from different shows and stuff. They've been talking about it. But like you say, no matter how you say raise the 40,000. I mean, like getting the 40,000, like you made way more sense than he could have came on the Ricky Smiley show and articulated like how you said we're gonna do such and such sister house or we're gonna do for Brother Roberts. We're gonna help get his taxes together. Now, if you raising money for helping the people in your church, I'm not tripping on a pastor get a few dollars.
Right.
But if you helping the rest of the people that's in there, we can come get help when we need it. I have no problem.
But see, that's the thing, right? So in ancient times, and we're going to talk about tithing, right?
Right.
Tithing is an old ancient phenomenon because the ancients studied how nature is.
Right.
They were very clear that there was going to be cycles of prosperity and some cycles of down cycles, right? That
Right.
happens. It's a cycle.
Right.
What would happen is they would tell people, take part of your grain, bring it to the storehouse,
Right.
so that when you need it, you can go back and get it.
Right.
So whether that would be drought or whether some calamity happened, locusts, whatever, things happen. It's nature.
Right.
Then what you can do is you can come back and either use the grain to plant or use
Right.
the grain to feed yourself.
Right.
And so if you come in and put this cycle of 7 years stuff in, right, this is your family stuff. This is yours. This is for you and your family. This is not. I'm not sharing this with the McCants family or the Jordan family or nobody else. This is all for Brother Mickey Jordan and his family. And they put in 7 years of grain here, and they took part of their crops and put in 7 years of grain. But then when you needed it, out of this account, I'm going to give you back what you need to help you get through the lean times, because we know by watching the river, the Nile, and how it floods and how it doesn't flood, that sometimes it's going to be low and we're not going to be able to get as much crops or any crops. That's where the whole idea of tithing comes from. But what's happened is now is you tithe, they make you believe that you could bind your way into heaven.
Right.
And the more that you tithe, the bigger your seat.
Right.
Not your acts, not how you conduct yourself, not how you treat other people, but the more you give, the bigger your spot. But yet, when you need it in lean times, you can't get it. They tell you go pray about it because your faith is weak.
Right.
But my pocket wasn't weak when you was asking me to, send 40,000 in and all of that other stuff.
Right.
And contextually, how in the world are you going to tell people that in the first place? I don't care what it's for. So when you get that comfortable and people make you you feel that comfortable to be able to say something like that to people, that's part of the problem.
Yeah, that's diabolical.
Yeah, because you're not talking about, hey, look, we need to raise this fund for, we're going to take care of 7 or 8 families. We're doing a scholarship fund. I need y'all to give this up because we're doing it for scholarships and we're not doing it for other stuff, because when you tell people you're not leaving until, but we're going to lock you in and you're not going to go nowhere. What?
What technically he said he didn't say lock because they could have got up and left. But he doing a lot of explaining.
Yeah, you got to explain it now because
yeah.
First and foremost, if you don't say it any kind of way, then you're fine, right? So now you got to go back and you got to whitewash the backboard,
Right.
right, and tell people what you really meant. But what you meant is what you said.
Right.
You said that in the first place. So you can't. Now you got to go back and go like, oh yeah, well this is what I really meant.
Right.
No, what you really meant is what you really said. And now you want to go back and you want to say, oh, well, that's not how I meant it.
Right.
And then what do? We say, okay, instead of saying no. And this is how politicians operate. This is how all of these people operate because we're not studying anything. We're responding to people on emotion and not logic.
Right.
Okay? So if you're studying, right, I know that if I'm keeping track of my tithes and I hit a lean spot, I already know, hey, look, I got this much money that I put in,
right.
and I'm hitting a bad spot. I need my money back,
right?
Because this is what the storehouse of the church is supposed to be about, right? Not the storehouse that you taking that money, you put it in there, you paying a building fund or whatever. And then when I hit a bad spot, and I hit a lean time, I can't go back and get it. But yet, if I put it in my bank account and only give you $1, you want to say something about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. When we come back, I'm gonna have that. Where you see the dude, it's on. I'm gonna find the video when his wife went back and told the preacher he started making one, and they had him at the church.
Right,
that's diabolical.
Right, but look, but unfortunately, and we kind of sort of talked about this before. The woman, his wife,
right,
who has more respect for the preacher than her husband, went back and told him.
Right.
That is an issue and a problem as well. So when people wonder the reason why men ain't going to church and black men especially are not going to church, it's because you respect him more than you respect me.
Yeah.
I'm the one providing a lifestyle for you, or we're working together to provide a lifestyle for us and each other. And then you want to sit around there and you want to go and tell him what's going on in our household.
Right.
And then when I go on vacation and don't take you, now what? Because
Right.
you weren't told in your part, go to the church. My part's staying with me.
Right. Facts.
But
Right.
yet we don't want to, oh, well, what made her think that she had the right to go tell their business to him?
I never understood that. Even when I watched the video, I was like, even when he was telling her that, but I was like, but sometimes it be like that.
But that's wrong, though. Because that means she's out of order.
Yeah.
So that goes back to the Willie Lynch letter, right?
Yeah.
Same thing. So
Yeah.
see, this is the thing what I'm trying to say, family, is that if we study certain documents and certain things that they put in our psyche, in our minds, for this woman to go and, oh, my husband got a razor, but I'm going to tell the preacher. What? First and foremost, he not your God.
Right. Right.
He's not even a person to lead you to what y'all call salvation.
Right.
That's not his job. They say faith without acts is for naught, right?
Right.
It said that in the Bible, it says that in the Quran, it says in every holy book that you have to be active. You have to do things of service.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to truly believe the things that you're doing of service is going to be in the best interest of humanity.
Right.
Who in the world is you to go tell him what's going on in our household with my money that I earn every day when I go to work to take care of you?
I didn't understand it, but when I watched it, I was like, but it was, that's how it is.
But that once again, the attack on our better halves,
Right.
our higher halves, is always, that's where the attack is, right?
Right.
So in all warfare, what happens is you attack the foundation of the culture, right? Mm-hmm. The foundation of the culture of every culture is the woman.
Facts.
So you attack her. So when they talk about Pocahontas and whoever this dude is that took her back, raped her, and took her back to England, you was attacking a woman.
Right. Well, who you think builds the army?
Do you think build the people, bring the people in order for them to be in the army?
The woman.
Right.
Who you think? How you think your civilization how you think you reload them? Just think about how they was doing the slavery when they was having the women. They was getting more workers for their plantation.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? They was doing them like a factory.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Why you think you had the man was called a stud?
Yeah, right, or buck.
Buck, right,
yeah,
right.
Called a buck.
Yeah,
right.
See?
So just like a horse.
Yeah.
This is what your job is.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they would blindfold him, and he might be sleeping with his mother or his sister.
Yeah.
Because they didn't care.
Yeah. Because it was about we got to get some people that's going to be in the field.
Right. Because see, after 1804, when we talk about the Haitian Revolution, right?
Right.
You couldn't know, we're going to stop bringing in, importing slaves.
Facts.
So from 1808, when they outlawed it, all the way to 1863, you grew the population by either miscegenation, which means that the white people slept with black people, or you buck bred on the plantation. So that's how you grew your population. And then from there, the experiment was, now we can turn them into what we want to. Now, that's the reason why, even to this day, we are really no more than 3 people away from dating or marrying somebody that we're related to some way. Because not only did we move all over the place, but people were, with the growing the population that way, you might be related to somebody somewhere. Oh, if y'all got too many things in common, you better check it out. You better go to Roscoe Jenkins family reunion and find out whether you get somebody in there that the tree is real close, the branches on the tree real close.
Yeah, you can mess around, be 3rd, 4th, 5th.
Hey,
Yeah,
some people say anything after 3 don't matter, but they're still family.
facts. I
But
mean, it was heavy.
yeah,
That was heavy.
and for us to not desire to study what the whys, why are we this way? Like why? And I understand even in ancient times, right? In ancient times, because our gene pool is so great, right? The
Hmm.
pharaoh married somebody in his family.
Hmm.
Okay, other cultures follow that, but the
Right,
issue with other cultures, their gene pool is very very tight. So you would have these children that have these birth defects.
right,
That rarely happens in our gene pool because our gene pool is so big, right? There's a man, I can't recall his name, who's a scientist, who discovered that we have 9 genomes and other races have 6.
mm,
That means there's a bigger, wider spread of genetic possibilities that you have to be very closely related in order to have birth defects that come
right,
from us unless they're environmentally brought in on us through the
mm,
food, through the water, through the air, through whatever else we consume, alcohol, fetal alcohol syndrome,
yeah,
drug abuse, drug addictions. That's how we alter our children. Now, I'm not telling y'all to go out there and look for your first cousin. I ain't saying that. Let's be
yeah.
clear.
Because
Don't get it
yeah,
twisted.
yeah,
Because y'all
yeah,
be out there going, hey, cuz, no. But there are people that when you meet them, that we are kind of, hey, man, we just get along really, really well. But and that's fine. It may be spiritual. It may be something else. But make sure that y'all checking that out. But anyway, what I'm talking about is being able to study,
right,
right? So we're being bombarded by so much other propaganda and so much other imagery that we've been reduced to being childlike.
right,
Everything's emotional. You
right.
did this. You took this from me. So we gonna fight. Or don't let me catch you. For what?
Yeah, because really, man. When you look at this stuff, it's a lot of high schoolers.
It's not even high school.
Yeah, because yeah,
That's kindergarten behavior.
right,
That's
right,
childlike
elementary,
elementary behavior
right,
instead of being adult about things.
right,
Well, whatever that looks like.
right,
Because we look at the other group being adults, they're worse than we are.
right,
But this is what we're looking at.
right,
This is what we're following. Now, if we try and follow some sort of culture, whether it be, you follow Nation of Islam or
yeah,
whatever it is, that's cool.
right,
That's fine. But where's the discipline at to not be emotionally out of order and not be emotionally out of control? Because that's really what thinking is.
right,
Critical thinking is I don't have to be uh, upset or mad or whatever over every little thing that happens or every little thing that comes in or comes around. I have
facts,
to be in control of myself.
facts,
Okay? And if I trust and believe, I'm sorry, if I know, I don't, because trust and belief is subjective and everybody change what they believe based upon what they're going through. But if you know, oh, for sure. See,
right,
oh, I trust in the Lord. No, you don't.
right,
Because then you don't say you trust it. I
right,
know
right,
in God.
right,
I know in the Lord. Because if I know in the Lord, then that means I can be like a flagpole,
right,
right? The flag may wave and go all over the place,
right,
but the flagpole not ever going anywhere. It's just
right,
going to be there and it's going to remain steady and it's not going to move.
hmm,
Okay? What people want to do is be the flag.
right,
Because,
facts.
so you know what I'm saying? People
Yeah,
want to be the
facts.
flag. That
Yeah,
means the flag get beat up by the wind,
yeah,
rain, snow,
yeah,
the
yeah.
sun, and then what you do, eventually you change it.
Right,
When it gets tattered and torn, you
right,
go change it,
right,
right? No, be the flagpole. Because that means you know in God. And if you know in God, then all of this emotional stuff and childlike actions don't happen. But because we don't study, right?
right,
We don't study anything. We don't study. We don't study them. We don't study us. And that's the reason why people like being messy.
yeah,
People like being messy because then I did. Okay, I did it. So now what? What's the consequence? Because I ain't got a consequence from a man. I had to
Right.
deal with the consequence that come from God.
Right.
That's the thing. What's the consequence come from God? And if we believe like we say we do, and we
Right.
don't, we
Right.
don't,
Right.
we don't. But if we know, that makes a difference.
Right. Like you said, it's a lot of what'd you say? There ain't no flag pole. There's a lot of flag
There's a lot of
waving.
flag. Oh, man, we love waving a flag. The flag can be everywhere, which means I can be everywhere. But if you want to be the flagpole, that means I know, and so therefore we're unwavering. So let me use one of their books of the Bible real quick, the Book of Job, one of my favorites.
Right.
Even though I have some other views about the deal that was made between the two um, people over him, but his faith was unwavering, right?
Right.
His belief was unwavering. His no was unwavering. And if his no was unwavering, he received this other stuff. But on the other side of that, his children got killed, his wife got killed,
Right.
all of this, he lost all of this other stuff that you just didn't even compare and believe and think about. You got 7 wives and 7 times 7 children and 7 times the more acres of the what you had before. But what about what I had before all of this? You all made this deal to see what my belief was.
Right.
You ain't even think about that. Yeah, but that's a whole nother story.
Right.
So one of these days we're gonna get into some of this stuff and really make people upset. And I really don't care because you're not even looking at it that way. Because people don't think. You just blindly believe without knowing.
Right. Right.
I don't want to blind believe everything. I want to know anything. I don't want to just, I'm just blind. I'm going to close my eyes and just know that I can walk out of here. And if I fall off the stairs, whose fault is that?
But it's supposed to make you think. It's supposed to open you up when you go, for you can look at stuff like, from what and I'm use some of the stuff where they see. This is why people is like we easily can be led astray, because we'll sit up there and believe people will say, well, the snake was talking in the Bible. It said white snakes ain't talking now. They got dumb over the years.
Well, see, because symbolically the snake was about something in ancient Kemet. As much as we talk about how much people think that they hate Kemet, you even have what the people talking about Saint Augustine from a black man.
But you see how people can get fooled. The snake was talking,
Well,
but then they don't understand it was a parable. It was describing, not a parable, describing an individual. But they will go with no. They really think a snake came through, slithered on in, and talked.
Well, that's because we get told to make sure that we believe whatever we told,
Right.
and never question it. But if you look at what the symbolism is, it's about how African people. Okay, so ancient Kemet, right? On top of the uraeus, which is the mask of the pharaoh,
Right.
there's a vulture, and we know if you pay attention to what a vulture does. A vulture, number one, even though it's one of the cleanest animals out there in the world, and it also cleans up stuff that is killed in war, right? So make sure it keeps diseases down. That's number one. But the other organism or animal that was on the uraeus is the cobra. The cobra bites and it kills, but it's also where they get the idea from, and this is even the idea of reincarnation, is when it sheds its skin, it becomes a new snake. So what the so-called people that bought themselves from freedom through Moses, sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, through Moses, what they did was they took that idea, co-opted to turn it against this idea of these African people, right? Because it's like we said Friday, if Moses was Ramesses II's brother, and he was a priest in the temple of On, knowledgeable in all the wisdom of ancient Egypt, what would you be mad when you came down off the mountain and you dropped the other 32 admonitions of my eye, and you only came down with 10 of them, and you saw people worshiping the golden calf? They were worshiping what they knew. So you had to turn this idea, this African idea, away and turn it into something negative and evil. So now the snake is the one that told Eve that she could go ahead on and do what you want to do. And then that caused the downfall of man, which they wanted to blame women in the first place because women was in charge of everything. Right? So if women is in charge of civilization, in charge of raising children, you destroy her character completely through history by claiming this story is true, and you make her second class citizen. So you can do what you want to the woman. So she has no control. She can't do this. She can't own land, and all that's European people. African people didn't believe that. People from the continent did not believe that. That doesn't come in until the missions and the missionaries later on. That's a European ideology. That the woman is second class citizen and the woman is and even when they brought themselves over here, you can't own land. It only has to come through the male child. And if the dad dies and there's a male heir, then he can control the land over the mother. So then when women started to fight for their equal rights, black women are on the plantation. They was going through suffrage and all this other stuff. But, it might be a little bit off on my times. But during that time, black women had no right but be on the plantation. Even if it was during, oh my gosh, after slavery.
Jim Crow.
Yeah, before Jim
no,
Crow.
you talking about, what was it called? Oh my God.
Yeah, when they were, so it's after slavery, and then they were back on.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it.
So when white women were talking about voting and suffrage and whatever, that did not include black women. Because black women were still, on the plantation making sure, not Jim Crow, it was on the tip of my tongue. But,
I know what you're saying. I can't even get the name off.
Yeah.
Was it the crap.
It's not desegregation. It's
wasn't
after they went back and were sharecropping.
Sharecropping,
right. So black women didn't have no right for nothing because after the Civil War, that 40 acres and a mule didn't happen, but they paid the white people, the white plantation owners, right? So stop walking around here believing a bunch of mess. If y'all sitting around here worried about DEI, go study. If you're sitting around here talking about, they're going to defund stuff for the school. We here.
Right.
I ain't hearing nobody saying, hey, Brother Elliott, Brother Mick, y'all want to do an after-school program and we'll pay y'all. We'll pay y'all. And then as long as you do, y'all going to teach the children and teach us too because, we lacking. As long as y'all going to help us out. Ain't nobody made no donations here like they did in November.
Right. That 80 million.
That 80 million in the 24 hours. Ain't nobody done nothing about that.
But how do you feel about all the stuff that's going on as far as that, you know what I'm saying? Like about the Board of Education when him stopped with the president pulling out of that the time that you got left. Can you kind of expound on that?
Okay, so let me try to see if I can put it in this term. The state of Michigan said it has donated over $1 billion through the lottery system to school systems. Where have we seen any of that? Where have we, through the state of Michigan, where have we seen it? So if you got $1 billion and you have, I think, 80-something districts or counties or whatever, and each county's got a GISD, and every county's got a GISD that is responsible for the school districts within that county. Where have we seen it at? So if you take 10 million, let's say we got 100 counties.
Right.
You take 10 million and give it to every county, then that should be sufficient in order to be able to make sure that whatever he decides he's want to remove, cut, or whatever, that we're still fine. My thing is this. Then you have local businesses, right? We just talked about the new company that's there. How do they get a tax cut to be here? How do they get a tax cut to be here? And they're going to have people that they're hopefully going to employ, but they're not making a donation to the citizens of the city. How's that work? How's that work? Lear's here. You should be, man. Even the local uh, corner stores that we stay in, and we keep them up, and they open at 8 o'clock in the morning to let people get whatever they get to get through their day. How come we're not forcing them to do something in our city too to support the school system? You getting money from it. You may not be getting money from. And let's do a couple more minutes, and then I got to get up out of here.
Got you.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that's coming out of this is making people realize that what you think, feel, and believe about certain groups and situations is not what you really. It's not what it is, and that we're going to have to start dealing with each other, and we should. We should. Why are we dependent upon somebody to take care of us other than us? I'm never, ever, ever, other than my father and my brothers, looking for another man outside of me. And I'm only looking for them for advice, right? And some other brothers. But I'm not, what it look like for me to have somebody else to guide my life other than me and my connection to God and my no, not my belief, not my feelings, but my no.
Got a point.
And we have to go back to knowing, or we have to go back to growing up, and we have to go back to, again, hey man, hey, I'm hungry, I ain't eat today, can you help me out? But my pride won't say I'm hungry. My stomach over here growling, and I won't come knocking on your door because I'm too prideful. That's foolish. Well, they call it foolish pride anyway.
Right.
They call it foolish pride anyway.
Right.
What sense does that make? How does that make any sense that we're still being that foolish and that out of order and childlike, right?
Right.
And being that childlike that we can't say, man, I'm hungry, or hey man, you straight. And
Right.
we don't do that.
Right.
We've lost our humanity. HUEMANITY.
How do we get it back though?
We have to study. We have to study. We have to study, and the system don't work, then you don't live in it. If the system don't work, it don't. Because I'm not gonna keep on. I'm not gonna go to a place where I'm giving part of my life's work to some place that I can't get help when I hit a lean time. That's illogical, because we don't even understand where it comes from,
Right.
because we don't study. Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams talks about that. He completely lays out the whole idea where his tithes come from. And it was exactly what I said today. It's, we're going to have a storehouse for you, and when you need it, you can come get it when you hit a lean time, because you're going to hit a lean time. That's just part of life.
Right.
And that's just part of being in rotation with nature.
Facts.
But we're not. We live outside of that.
Are we gonna get it together?
We're gonna have to.
Yeah.
It may not be everybody, but if a few people get it, then that's better than none.
Right. But I believe it can be affected though.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Where
Absolutely.
others to see that,
Right.
but you got to be somebody who want to do it.
Yeah, and the other part about that is that we have to hold these so-called. They're not my leaders. None of them.
Right.
None of them. The person over that, our council person, not my leader. The mayor, not my leader. I know him. I speak to him when I see him. These people, not my leaders. The
Gotcha.
school board, not my leaders.
Right.
No, I am. I have to look in the mirror and get up every day to do what I need to for my household and my children. I'm the leader of that. I'm it. I'm not putting that in somebody else's hands. You're not going to sit around there and think you're going to outstudy me with stuff that I study. That's not happening. Now, there are people that study more than I do, and I'm not knocking that, but I studied a couple 100,000 books, and you only study one. You ain't the expert on that one.
Right.
The only thing you're doing is studying one. And I'll show you one that's way older than that doesn't have what you have in your book.
Right.
Man, I hate to leave. But
I ain't no problem. We'll get back on it.
yeah, we'll be back on sometime this week, family. I know this is earlier than what we say we do. Unfortunately, I have something I have to do this morning and a part of the afternoon. So I appreciate y'all joining us this morning. We'll see you soon. Thank you, family. Please go do some study. Study to show yourself approved. I don't care what it is and how you live your life, but study where it comes from, how it's supposed to be, and how it should work for you. Thank you, family. Appreciate you.
Peace.